one has to deal with this issue if one is going to be on that path.
We agree. Thank you. Senator Cruz.
Mr. Secretary, welcome. You and I had a vigorous conversation in my office yesterday. You said at the time, nobody could have imagined what happened in Israel with this terror attack. I have to say I disagreed then and I disagree now. Many of us not only imagined, we predicted it. You were a critical player in the Obama administration's campaign of appeasement with Iran. You played a pivotal role in flooding over $100 billion to the Iranian regime. The Biden administration has continued that policy, flooding nearly an additional $100 billion to the Iranian regime. That policy of appeasement, sending hundreds of billions of dollars to a theocratic, homicidal, genocidal maniac who leads chants of death to America and death to Israel, has proven catastrophic. The death squads in Israel from Hamas are funded in real and meaningful ways by the billions of dollars the Obama administration and now the Biden administration has flowed directly to Iran. That has proven disastrous. We also have drones. As you know, today, the UN arms embargo on Iran expires. Today. Ironically, the day of your hearing. You were pivotal in advocating for UN Resolution 2231, the Iran deal, which is why the arms embargo is expiring today. On October 7th, Hamas used swarms of sophisticated drones in their October 7th attack. Do you believe the world is safer today because of 2231 and the expiration of the arms embargo, allowing Iran now to sell ballistic missiles and long-range drones?
Senator, I think you would have to agree that the history of the U.S. engagement on JCPOA has changed substantially since I sat in this room.
Do you think the world is better and safer with the arms embargo expired?
But Senator, if the U.S. was not...
yes or no? Are we safer today with no arms embargo?
I think it's much more complicated than that because we're not part of JCPOA, therefore there was no extension of the arms embargo. I would have advocated for an extension of the arms embargo, and we might well have...
And by the way, the Biden administration's been in power two and a half years. The arms embargo is expiring today, and you were pivotal in that happening. Let's shift to another thing, because the Biden administration didn't just send money to Iran in massive numbers. It has also sent money to Gaza that went to Hamas. And at the time, I led a coalition of senators urging the Biden administration, do not send money to Gaza because it is controlled by Hamas. It will be used by Hamas for acts of terrorism. We now know that the Biden administration reached the following determination, and I quote, due to its overall strength and level of control over Gaza, we assess that there is a high risk Hamas could potentially derive indirect unintentional benefit from U.S. assistance to Gaza. High risk. Now, as Treasury Secretary, you're familiar with these determinations. Under ordinary anti-terrorism laws, you can't send money where there's a high risk it'll be used for terrorism. But what did the Biden administration do? It waived our anti-terrorism law because their political agenda was so important they were willing to take that high risk. Was it a mistake to send hundreds of millions of dollars to Gaza that in a very real and practical way funded the death squads and funded the rockets that are being used to murder Israelis?
Senator, I was not in government at the time these decisions were made.
Was it a mistake?
I'm not familiar with the back and forth that you're referring to, but my understanding is the funding that went to Gaza was for things like the hospital and humanitarian.
So
He just said he don't know about it, but then he's talking about
hospitals. Derive benefits?
Senator, I would have to look at the document.
He's a criminal.
You are one of few people that has the expertise to do this.
I have high regard for OFAC.
He's a
I just am
criminal.
not familiar with the document.
So is the world
That guy,
safer
not him.
or less safe because hundreds of millions of dollars were sent to Gaza
A simple
when it's
question.
controlled by Hamas?
He's not going to answer.
Senator,
He's a criminal.
Hamas's
Look,
activities
a yes or
have
no
proven
answer.
how evil they are and how important it is to
Okay, so
deny
you're not
them
answering
resources.
that question. Let me ask this question.
But I will say
The
this,
Biden
Senator,
administration, the Biden
as
State
Secretary of the
Department
Treasury,
has repeatedly undermined Israel as this attack was ongoing. Within hours of the attack commencing, the State Department sent out a tweet from the Office of Palestinian Affairs, an office that would report to you if you're confirmed, that said, "We unequivocally condemn the attack of Hamas terrorists and the loss of life that is incurred. We urge all sides to refrain from violence and retaliatory attacks. Terror and violence solve nothing." Do you agree with this tweet that was sent by the Biden State Department?
Senator,
Why can't he answer yes or no?
would have to read it. I'm not familiar with it.
You're not familiar with it.
I want to go back to the last point. that you made,
Hold on a second.
that-
What do you're not familiar with this tweet. They sent it out at 3 in the morning while the attacks were unfolding. I blasted it at 3 in the morning, and they deleted it within the hour because it was shameful. They were telling Israel, "Do not respond while your citizens are being murdered." And by the way,
the President of the United States has stated clearly the policy of the United States. I agree with the
Mr.
President of the United States.
I understand, but at the same time, this administration repeatedly walks back what he says. So here's another tweet sent from the State Department. Turkish Foreign Minister and I spoke, this is from Secretary Blinken, spoke further on Hamas's terrorist attack on Israel. I encourage Turkey's advocacy for a ceasefire and the release of all hostages held by Hamas immediately. Do you agree with this tweet from the
He's not gonna
Secretary of
answer.
State calling for a ceasefire immediately after this attack began?
I think the President and
See,
the
he
Secretary of
can't
State
give a
have made
straight
clear that Israel has a right
He's a
and a
criminal.
Do
responsibility
you agree
to
with this
defend
tweet
itself.
from the
He's
State
part of the
Department?
problem.
Senator, I can't respond to tweets that you're reading to me.
Why, are you not familiar with it?
I'm telling you,
you
the
haven't
poli-
followed what the administration has said on this. By the way, they deleted this tweet as well. Day after day after day, this administration has systematically undermined Israel. And finally, you advocated for UN Resolution 2334, which declared much of Israel illegally occupied territory, including the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem and the Western Wall. Do you believe the Jewish quarter and the Western Wall are illegally occupied territory?
He's not going to answer.
Senator, I do not believe that it is illegally occupied territory.
Then why did you
but
support a UN resolution saying that it is?
I think we could have a conversation
Look at
about
he's
that, but
stuttering.
it's going to take me more than 10 seconds to respond to it. Which
All
I'd
the
be happy
time you
to
like.
do.
Allow the witness to respond, if you allow the witness to respond.
Yeah. So first, if I can respond, you've said a lot of things that you
He's
have
gonna be
not
talking
given me a
about
chance to
nothing. He's
respond
gonna be
to.
talking
I
around
sanctioned Hamas in
in
2015.
circles.
Hamas was sanctioned
He's not
again
gonna give a
today.
direct
So I
answer.
don't think it was a fair characterization of either what I did or this administration. Second of all, the issue of a UN resolution it was a UN resolution that all the parties had to agree to, that was negotiated to take out the most offensive provisions. Whether it was a good or a bad resolution in the end, the president decided to abstain rather than have a worse resolution come out. You can agree or disagree with that.
Could have vetoed it.
But he was trying to prevent a worse resolution.
He could have vetoed
coming
it.
out.